Coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that get their name from the halo of spike proteins on their outer surface, which resemble a crown, the corona, under a microscope. The new coronavirus is called SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2 stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2. As a new virus, it means that previously no one in the world has been infected with it, and therefore, no one has antibodies to it. Because no one has antibodies, everyone is at risk for catching the virus, becoming ill, and spreading the virus. SARS-CoV-2 causes a disease called COVID-19, a severe respiratory illness. COVID-19 can be deadly, particularly for older people and those with underlying health conditions. The virus is spread through droplets in the air after coughing or sneezing, which people nearby can take in through their nose, mouth, or eyes. The virus can also spread by touching a contaminated surface, but it's unclear how long the virus lives on surfaces. The time between the initial infection and the first symptoms appearing varies widely, but is 5 days on average. Symptoms often start in the back of the throat with a dry cough and sore throat, along with a fever. Symptoms become more severe as the infection starts making its way to your lower respiratory tract. Here, it can cause more respiratory problems like bronchitis and pneumonia. When the virus reaches your lungs, it causes inflammation in the air sacs in your lungs, which are called alveoli. Your alveoli are where oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged. In pneumonia, there is swelling, decreased airflow, and your alveoli start to fill with fluid, causing shortness of breath and difficulty breathing. Some people need a ventilator to help them breathe. Less oxygen in your blood deprives other major organs of oxygen, including your liver, kidney, and brain. Acute respiratory distress caused by widespread swelling in the lungs stops your body from getting the oxygen it needs to survive. This respiratory distress can lead to organ failure and death. While COVID-19 can be deadly, the vast majority, around 80% of cases, are mild to moderate, and people recover within a week or two.
The virus that causes coronavirus disease is spreading in some of our communities. This disease, also known as COVID-19, is thought to spread mainly from person to person through respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs or sneezes. Take steps to lower your risk of getting sick. Here are some things you should do. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. You can also use hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Take extra measures to put distance between yourself and others. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Stay home if you're sick, except to get medical care. If you have severe symptoms, please call 911. Cover coughs and sneezes with a tissue or the inside of your elbow. Only wear a face mask if you're sick and around other people, or if you need to take care of someone who is sick. Clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces. Older adults and people who have severe chronic medical conditions like heart or lung disease or diabetes are at higher risk for more serious illness from COVID-19. This group should consult with their healthcare provider about additional steps to stay protected. For more information on COVID-19, please visit cdc.gov/COVID-19.
Panic is one of the things that we shouldn't do because it doesn't help anybody. There's panic that spreads more widely than the virus, which can be very, very harmful. So it's important that we try and sort of wind that down and sort of ramp up our preparedness in the right sort of way. You know, we're fighting a war, but we're doing it sensibly. We need each one of you to be able to get this right. You have to keep up because the instructions change on a day-to-day basis because of this process of trying to contain the virus. So if you were to think about that analogy of war, if we don't follow instructions from high command, who have a lot more information than we do, things can go completely wrong. To make it simple, The Department of Health tells you exactly what you should do as a member of public at any given time. Follow those instructions. Social distancing is really important. Driving through Cambridge, the number of cars that were coming into town, that worries me. You know, the fact that people are not listening to the suggestion that we should sort of be winding down on social activity. The reason I'm saying that is because the virus spreads from one individual to another. If you are in close contact of less than a meter, you're more likely to get the virus spread to yourselves. If we slow the spread of the virus down, what that then allows us to do is to be able to deal with the people who are really sick in a paced manner. You know, so if we all get the virus quickly together, this is really important. At this stage of the epidemic, where we are today, you need to protect your elderly relatives. You need to protect those who are vulnerable. And the way to find out who those people are is to go to the NHS England website, and they actually have a list of people. The general list is people with chronic respiratory disease, people with chronic heart disease, diabetics, people who are vulnerable because of recent chemotherapy for cancers, people who are immunosuppressed because of immune conditions, and so on and so forth. So the principle of social isolation has gone beyond that. Elderly people in particular are also a little more vulnerable than the general population, and we know that very clearly from the data that we have from Italy. If you care for your elderly grandfather or grandmother, you need to make sure that social distancing works for them. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't have social contact, because there are so many different ways in which we can have social contact. And it may be that we need to do that more now by, say, electronic means. There's been deferring guidance on this. There's been a time when they said self-isolate for 7 days, and then all of a sudden it's changed to 14 days, and it's been variable. The reason why this has been different is that we were at different stages of this epidemic. The government felt at a certain time we were fine to be self-isolating for 7 days. Now that's increased to 14 days. We all know that we shouldn't be going to pubs, gathering in public places. You know, football matches have been cancelled, a lot of events and concerts have been cancelled, and that is having a profound effect on people's lives, and we can't take that away. It doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't go out, you know. Would it be okay if I got up early and went for a run? Yes, please do. You must go for your run, get your exercise, you know. As long as you're not sort of running with a team or running the marathon where there are shed loads of people running together, I would recommend that you definitely exercise, keep fit, try and get your sleep. And if you're worried about your mental health and stress, avoid alcohol. I'm preparing myself as if I was preparing for a marathon. Okay, and that's exactly what it is. I can't emphasize that message more. You know, if there was a time to wash your hands, and for all of us to wash our hands, now is the time. You know, so wash your hands when you come back home, before you eat your food, after you've eaten your food, before you leave your house. And there are simple things like when you open doors, you know, if you've touched the door handle, remember the door handle could have areas of, it could potentially have had a virus on it, you know, and that could spread to someone else and possibly to yourself as well. So all of these simple measures continue throughout the whole epidemic and should continue for the rest of our lives, ideally. So simple things like stopping smoking could potentially save your life, because it actually allows, say, an asthmatic for the inhaler to work better if you stop smoking. So this is a good time. You know, as a chest physician, I have to get that in. And if you need help with stopping smoking, there are a lot of websites. There are national websites, there are local websites that you can go to try and address that. The effects of stopping smoking are almost felt immediately, within minutes to hours to days. And then the benefits just keep accumulating as the time goes by if you've stayed off the cigarettes. So certainly you're more vulnerable to getting a viral infection if you're a current smoker than if you've stopped smoking. You should certainly stay off your cigarettes. I'd also encourage you to try not to compare healthcare organizations across the world. We can't help doing that. However, it's really important that we don't do that, because what is right for America under the current circumstances is different to what is right for us in Britain, for our health service. What is right for Italy is different to what is right for South Korea and Japan and so on. The kind of epidemiological interventions that you would do would depend on your healthcare system, the nation, the population of the country. It can be frightening, and you might think that actually India is getting it right, but Italy is getting it wrong, and that's the wrong thing to do. As a young person, you have a social responsibility, and we have a social responsibility for our loved ones who are vulnerable. So you will have a grandfather or a grandmother, or you will have a brother or a sister. Think of what you can do for that grandfather or grandmother by doing things such as social isolation. What you're doing with social isolation is preventing that curve going exponentially up. You're flattening the curve. So that's the first thing that you can do as a young person. The second thing that I would say to a young person is, it is not only the elderly, the vulnerable who are affected. Why is it that there are some 30-year-olds who are coming into intensive care units with COVID-19? So if you think about our lives, we go about our lives and we deal with most problems as young people. However, amongst us, there will always be people who have vulnerabilities. You might have an immune deficiency, some other medical problem which wasn't apparent, but unless your system or your body was stressed, only that would then point towards this particular vulnerability. Or the virus itself, the load of the virus that you've been exposed to, because when the pandemic is at its max, you don't follow these basic hygiene principles and rules, and you go out, you go to a nightclub, or you have a rave in your room or something, where there are shed loads of people together, then and then if there are people who have a particular, say, strain of this virus, because these viruses, they're RNA viruses which can mutate.